We're going to talk not about Trump because who the hell knows? And honestly, while we're streaming, he could die. Let's talk about other leaders, how other leaders have dealt with COVID, because Janine Áñez had it in Bolivia, Boris Johnson had it, and Bolsonaro in Brazil, and now Trump. So here's who I have coming on. Ready? Victor Pougy, who is based in Brazil and is with the Intercept Brazil. Hi, Victor. How are you?
Hi, Katie. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Let us talk about what it was like when Trump ally Bolsonaro was diagnosed with COVID and how you found out and what the effect on the country was.
It was a shit show. I mean, can we say that? Yeah,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
It was a shit show. It had been, right? I guess not many American listeners would be that informed about Brazil, but your listeners will because you keep covering it very well. But yeah, I mean, the whole COVID situation here in Brazil with Bolsonaro is absolutely chaotic in the sense that there is really no governmental policy in the federal level, in the presidential level. So it just punted it kind of to the governors and to the local governments and just keeps like deflecting the blame and just throwing it onto them. So from the start, it was pretty chaotic. And there's actually like two different instances of when we thought Bolsonaro had COVID, first of which turned out he didn't have, or at least that's what the story became. And then he did have later. But I think actually the time he didn't really have COVID is the one that's the most fun because he had just been to Mar-a-Lago. He was in Florida to meet with Trump in May. Early May, and as they came back, him and his entourage, people around him started testing positive, which was kind of like cool because it became a countrywide soap opera of like, does the president have it? Like his aide has it, another aide has it, another aide has it, and then it became even cooler because the mystery became if he had given it to Trump. Right. Which was like the biggest question around Brazil. And there was a whole mess because his son, his like largest failed son, he's just like Trump. He is like followed about by his adult children that are like unbearably dumb. But he had given confirmed it to Fox News, to John Roberts, that he had tested positive, and then he backtracked it and no one quite believed it. But, you know, it was up in the air like that, how a lot of the time things are with Bolsonaro. But then, you know, the bottom line was that he didn't really have COVID, but just most of his aides. But that first moment was kind of a preview of what would happen because, you know, while he hadn't been confirmed if he had it or he didn't, it was confirmed that he was near people who had tested positive, and nonetheless, he was just like walking around, meeting people, shaking hands, like coughing on people, and you know, being himself normally, even though he had potentially had COVID. But then in July rather, he did actually get COVID. And it just became clear how totally inadequate anything was because he just kept meeting with people. There was like no quarantine. People were going in and out. He actually gave an interview to reporters confirming he was sick. And during that interview, he was like, I tested positive. That's so sad. But I'm going to remove my mask to show you how I'm actually healthy. So yeah, it was just absolutely insane. But he was he was able to kind of walk it out in a way that I don't think Trump will be, because he didn't really get very sick. So it worked in his favor because he could say, see, it's not a big deal. Like, it's not that bad. I'm fine.
Right.
And he was just meeting people, and it's likely that he spread it to some people, which is crazy.
I understand what you're saying, that it sounds like they're different, right? Trump looks like he is at Walter Reed, so it looks a bit more serious than in Bolsonaro's case. But if Trump survives and fully recovers, let's say, I still think he can do what Bolsonaro did, which is say, look, I'm obviously in good shape. which is why I survived. And look, see, I was right that I was like, not to play it down, although it's kind of incredible that he has said on record, and we know this, that he downplayed it.
Yeah, I mean,
there's so many missed opportunities for Biden. I talked about this on Useful Idiots, but like he should be, I mean, he should have said young people can get it. He should have named a couple of people who died. I mean, politicians are so good at these things, right? I met a woman in
exactly.
Springfield, whatever state, and she told me, blah, blah, just name some people who
like
died.
Mother of two children, and then she was like,
right. So name exactly. That's what you should do. Anyway, he didn't do that, but my worry is that Trump will, if he survives and is in good health, he'll be like, I'm in great health. Nothing happened, and that's why I didn't, and I didn't need to take these crazy precautions, and I didn't wear a mask, and I got it, and look what happened. So, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it is so sad because Biden like never misses the opportunity to miss an opportunity, and Trump, on the other hand, always like makes an opportunity out of things that shouldn't be opportunities for him. So it could go wrong. But I think that if he does, I mean, it's hard to tell. It's just happening. Like everything is shrouded in like layers and layers of like unknowns. What was it? The George Bush quote? There's like the non-unknowns and the
no knowns and unknown knowns. That was actually what's his name? Not Bush. His Rumsfeld.
Rumsfeld, yeah.
Who, by the way, people listed one year as one of the 50 most beautiful people. They should have, if they had like a war criminals edition, he would be up there just because he's not hideous. And you have like David Frum and Henry Kissinger. So like the bar is very low. He could be a supermodel among war criminals, but for a civilian, no.
On the Hague hottest.
Yeah, the hottest of the Hague. The Hague's hottest. That's good. I like that. Bolsonaro, this wasn't his only time cheating death. He got stabbed, right, during his first, during his, can you talk about what happened there?
I think that is probably the most important event of the election season. It was while everything was still up in the air, and Bolsonaro was stabbed. I mean, it was a really terrible thing that actually happened, and it could be argued that that's when he became electable, right? Because he was an extremist guy and he was aggressive and mean and awful, right? And then he became like a sympathetic character because he was on the hospital having been stabbed by a crazy person.
Right.
And I think there's something else, which is that the center-right candidate, because a lot of the time the discourse around Trump and Bolsonaro is that the left wing is as a left wing having lost and given place to the far right. I would argue that it was actually the center right that collapsed, that allowed for the far right to rise. So like what you would expect in the Republican Party, like the Marco Rubios or the Jeb Bushes, they were the ones that collapsed, not the left wing. But whatever. This is, here in Brazil, the center right candidate was the kind of like the establishment guy that everyone wanted. All the powers that be wanted him to have been elected, and not Bolsonaro, because Bolsonaro was actually dangerous for them. Most of I guess similar to Trump in some ways. Yeah. So that center-right guy, his campaign was focused on Bolsonaro, not letting Bolsonaro grow. He would be the polarization with the left. He would win. Right. When Bolsonaro was stabbed, all his attack ads against Bolsonaro, they had to pull it back, attack the left. And then Bolsonaro was like, no one was attacking him. Right, because it was so I think that is the most important thing that happened.
Yeah. And he didn't even the guy who stabbed him was mentally ill, right? Who was the person who stabbed him?
He is a mentally ill guy. He has been taken by like these forensic psychologist guys like 3 or 4 times have attested him as being mentally ill. But of course, there is an awkward thing that he was once a member of a left-wing political party. Right. So, it gets muddled and complicated, and then it becomes like the left is killing Bolsonaro. It's just the whole thing is a tragedy, right? Like if I could delete that day from Brazilian history, God knows what would happen differently.
Didn't he do something where he hid in his house? He was like, I don't feel well.
There are televised debates here in Brazil, just like in the US. And Bolsonaro didn't go to the debates, using him having been stabbed as an excuse, even though he was giving interviews and going out. But he really is terrible at a debate. He's terrible, doing anything, right? I mean, he is just a wild character. So he didn't go to the debates because he would say like, "Oh no, I am I've just stabbed. I'm not healthy to do this." So again, it was like another debate that no one could attack him, and he just won by default by not, because if he was the elephant in the room and no one could attack him directly.
Right. The sympathetic element in the room. Yeah.
He became a sympathetic guy, which is remarkable because he's the most unsympathetic person like ever.